How did I get here? I studied day and night. I became an engineer. As the son of migrant farm workers, I was taught the value of hard work. But this is how I really got here.
Your child's brain is more than 80% developed by age 3. So from the moment they're born, talk, read, sing to them. It changes everything. Go to first5california.com.
I was born here, on the steps of my mother's high school, but I was raised by 3 strong women who taught me to be the best I could be. Isn't that what we should be teaching all our children?
A child's brain is more than 80% developed by age 3. So talk, read, sing to them. Strengthen their brains from the moment they're born. Go to first5california.com.
The videos that you just saw are part of a campaign that we have running in California through First 5 of California to educate the community about the opportunity that exists in the first years of life for children. The opportunities exist in the first months, weeks, and years of life. And because children are not getting the right kinds of interactions that they need in that time frame, the children are not learning ready when they get to school. They are not doing well in school. They're dropping out of school. They're having tons of health problems. And the learning gaps in the schools in this country are huge. There are huge gaps all over the country, all the major schools. And in spite of a lot of people doing a lot of work in a lot of settings, no one has closed those learning gaps in any of the settings. But let me go back to that last slide. I'm going to talk about 2 things today. I'm going to talk about kids, and I'm going to talk about transformation of healthcare. So I'm going to cover 2 topics in a hurry. One is about transforming the care, but we do have, I'm going to start with the massive learning gaps in those videos. We actually have more people in prison than any country on the planet by a huge factor. We have 7 times more people in prison than Canada. And we disproportionately imprison minority Americans, and we disproportionately imprison people who have dropped out of school. We have so many African Americans in prison in this country that we actually have more African American males in jail today than the total number of African American males who were enslaved on day 1 of the Civil War. If you took all of the jail cells that we have today and put every slave at that time in it, there would be empty cells there. And the people who are going to jail, we disproportionately imprison people from all of our minority groups. But the heaviest and most disproportionate imprisonment comes from people who have dropped out of school. If you are a minority and you've dropped out of school, you are far, far, far more likely to go to jail. And right now, more than 60% of the African American males in their 30s who have dropped out of school are in jail. And that compares to 5% of the African American males in this country who have graduated from school. And so what we know is that we have to change that trajectory. If we want to change the number of people we have in jail, and this is true for people from all races, disproportionate numbers of people in jail. And if you look at Great Britain, 60% of the people in prison in Great Britain can't read. So this is a worldwide phenomenon. And so the people who end up not being able to read, dropping out of school, end up in jail. And the path to jail starts at before age 3. We cannot close learning gaps at 15 years. We have to close them at 15 months. We know with 80% accuracy by age 3 which children are going to go down which path. By the time you get to age 4, the process is slowing down. It's literally biological, and it's the same biology for every race, every culture, every group, every economic status. It's about neuron development in the brains, and the kids who have appropriate neuron development in those time frames do well, and the ones who don't, the ones who are isolated, do badly. And by age 3, it's almost impossible to catch up. And it's all about neuron development. It's literally exercised brains to strengthen brains for kids from every race. And we need to understand this as a country, and we need to deal with this very directly. And we need all parents of all children in this country to know that physical exercise builds strong brains, or strong bodies rather, and brain exercise, mental exercise, builds strong brains. And it's easy to do. It's incredibly easy to do. Exercising the brain doesn't take a lot of equipment, it doesn't take a lot of support staff. What it takes is direct interaction, and it takes talking, reading, and singing directly to the children. And if the children have someone talking, reading, and singing, and interacting with them, they do much better. And if they don't have someone talking, reading, interacting with them, they do badly, they fall behind. And the ones who have fallen behind by age 3 almost never catch up. Very few. You could do some catching up after 3, but literally at age 4, the brain goes through a different process that's called pruning. And it actually prunes out of the brain any of the potential for neuron connectivity that hasn't been utilized. So the brain is actually different. And it's true for a whole number of things, language, music, it's true for learning. Japanese children who have not heard R or L by age 3 can never hear those sounds later in their life because that part of their brain didn't get wired, and they literally can't hear the sound. It's an impossible sound to hear. All of our brains go through the same time frames. And what we need to understand is all of these programs to close all of those learning gaps in all of those schools have failed because you can't close the learning gaps at 15 years. You have to close them at 15 months. Oakland did a magnificent program. They identified the fact that 80% of the white kids in the school system could read and only 40% of the black children in that school system could read. So they decided to change that. They put resources. They hired a brilliant leader for the program, great guy. They did coaching, teaching, follow-up. They did group sessions. They did individual sessions. They did tutoring. They did all of those things. And a decade later, it's gone from 80% of the white kids who could read and 40% of the black kids who could read down to 30% of the black kids who could read. Because all those great programs don't make a change in a 15-year-old's life. You have to get to those children early. You've got to get to them at the beginning of the process. You've got to get to them early. And the first 3 months are really important for emotional development because epigenetically in those first 3 months there's emotional wiring that happens. And the children who are hungry and who are fed and who are stressed and who are comforted in those first months end up with brains that develop in one direction. And the children who are stressed and not comforted and hungry and not fed literally have their brains wire themselves differently, and you go down different processes that can lead to toxic stress and that lead to chronic negativity syndrome where everything seems negative. It seems like a negative world. And we need to deal with those issues. That's one set of issues, and I'm going to jump for a minute to the second topic and then come back and relate them. Topic 2 is healthcare reform. I spent a number of years I've actually spent 30 years as CEOs of different companies, all in the healthcare world. The last dozen CEO and chair at Kaiser Permanente. And Kaiser Permanente is a vertically integrated care system, $50 billion revenue stream, 200,000 employees, about 600 care sites, 10 million patients, and it's a fully vertically integrated care system, and it has all of the parts and pieces. So it has the labs and the pharmacies and the hospitals and clinics, whatever, home care. It's a totally vertically integrated system. People join, pay a fixed amount per month to get all of their care. So it's a self-contained total care system, and that's given us the opportunity in that environment to do some things. And in addition to being vertically integrated, Kaiser Permanente is highly diverse as a care system. So the day I left, 59% of the employees were minority, from one minority group or another. The executive staff, 8 regional presidents, only 2 were white males. Half women, half men, 2 minority men. Very diverse organization at multiple levels. And we decided that we were going to do some fun and transformational things in that vertically integrated, highly diverse care system. So we put some programs in place, and in half a dozen years, we moved from average performance in about every level of service and quality, good care, a few areas of great care, but fairly average care, to best care. We decided that given the fact that we had all the money, we had all the resources, we had all the patients, we had all the opportunity, there was no reason not to go to best care. So we basically set up a strategy that involved database continuous improvement. So we said we're going to do continuous improvement, and we're going to build a database, and we're going to put all the systems in place to support that. We're going to do patient-centered care, where the care is about the patient and not about the care delivery system. It's not about the process, it's about the patient. That we did consistent and embedded cultures of caring. We said over and over again, treat the patient like a member of your family. Treat the patient like a member of your family to be treated if they come to our care site. And then we did team structures, and we did team approaches and teams. Now, we are creatures of instincts. We humans are creatures of instincts. We are instinctively territorial, we're instinctively hierarchical, we're instinctively tribal. We instinctively divide the world into us and them, and if we're an us, we're supportive, nurturing, protective, forgiving. If we're a them, we're territorial, antagonistic, distrustful. We do negative things to them, and we do very positive things to us. We're all wired that way. That's just the wiring. And since we know we're wired that way, what you have to do if you're a highly diverse organization is you have to bring together the 6 triggers that work at instincts to bring people together into alignment. And so we put together the strategy was based on those elements that I just talked about, and then embedded that into this sort of a strategy. And the 6 alignment triggers, if you've got a group of people and you want them to come together and be a group, then you take a look at what's possible. And you can get people to come together by having a sense of danger, just like Maslow's hierarchy of need. If there's a sense of danger, people in almost any setting will come together to resist danger. People will also come together to deal with a common enemy. If you all hate the same enemy, people do use this in politics all the time. But you can use it in work settings too. We use it all the time. Kaiser Permanente, we talked about our competitors. We talked about Blue Cross. We talked about what we were doing to compete with Blue Cross to keep them from taking our patients away. So we did common enemy. Team instincts are incredibly powerful. If you can get people to think of being on a team, to do team things together, to have an identity as a team and an assignment as a team and an alignment, you can't just call somebody a team and hope it works. But if you actually know what the components of a team are and you activate teams. So we created teams to do everything. And because we had teams to do everything, and we had teams to do continuous improvement. And so we set continuous improvement goals, and if teams of people work with each other, people will overlook all the racial, ethnic, tribal differences to work together for a common cause. And that instinct we have because hunters and gatherers needed that set of instincts to occasionally take down elephants. And so we basically use team instincts, a sense of common identity, a sense of who we are, We are the people of Kaiser Permanente. We did that a lot. We're the people of Kaiser Permanente, therefore, and we gave ourselves a shared identity. You have common goals, common gains. If we do this together, we will all prosper. If we do this together, we'll have great pensions. If we do this together, we'll have, if you identify all the common gains and then relate the gain to the behavior so that it's a causal process in people's minds and not just accidental. We should do this because if we do this, we're going to gain. We should do this together because if we do this, we're going to defeat that enemy. And on the team side, we had 200,000 employees. We had 140,000 employees on unit-based teams. And every unit set up teams to do something in their unit, and we taught the managers to be team leaders rather than bosses and supervisors, and we ended up with team performance that was quite good. And then you have mission, vision, or leader loyalty as the top, just like Maslow's hierarchy of need, where the self-actualization is the top. Basically, the top alignment trigger is mission, vision, or leader loyalty. We didn't use the leader loyalty model, we used the mission, vision model. We're here to do good, and here's the ways we're here to do good. And I thought I had that on the screen, and I didn't. So I just explained this pyramid to you. And I hope you really like it. This pyramid works. You can use it in almost any setting. You can use it in a work site, you can use it in a company, you can use it in a country, you can use it. Because if you can have people have a common enemy, if people do things together on teams, we need teams in our communities to work with our children. So how did that work? Well, KP ended up being #1 in the country in just about everything. #1 on J.D. Powers, #1 on Consumer Reports, #1 on NCQA, #1 on Leapfrog Group. Medicare rated 550 health plans around the country, and when they rated the 550 health plans, they gave 1 to 5 stars. And 11 health plans in the entire country got all 5 stars. And the most diverse health plan in the country, Kaiser Permanente, got 8 plans. All 8 plans got 5 stars. There are only 3 plans in the country that weren't Kaiser Permanente that got the top rating, because we did the things I just talked about, did it as a team, and did it with people who really cared about continuous improvement and process improvement. And the company was also top rated for diversity and environmental science. And then diversity, we're the #1 rated company in the country in Diversity Inc. And we won the Diversity MBA thing so many times that they retired the trophy and just gave it a Lifetime Achievement Award, and so they could name somebody else #1. But we need to use similar agendas and similar strategies and similar approaches for kids. And we need to move on kids. We moved on healthcare away from provider-centered care to patient-centered care. On kids, we need to move away from institution-centered education into kid-centered education. We need to have a continuous improvement for kids, and we need to have B through 12, or B through C be our agenda, not K-12. Birth to college, not kindergarten to 12. So the First 5 Commission has developed a strategy, and I chair the commission. I chair the First 5 Commission for Children and Families for the state of California. And we get tobacco tax money every year to spend on kids. So we are trying to figure out how to close the learning gaps in California. And the learning gaps in California are some of the worst in the country. They're really horrible. So the last couple of years, we've taken on closing learning gaps as a major agenda. So we need to do a massive public health campaign. We need surround sound, we need trusted messengers, we need faith leaders, community leaders, and news media all on board with this agenda. We also need to take the WIC programs. We're doing pilots with the WIC programs that provide food support to low-income mothers and Medicaid program. And we're converting the WIC programs into also education about brain development. We're working with Nurse Family Partnerships, did some pilots. We just took pilots in LA that took the number of kids in the Medicaid population reported for abuse from 14% down to 4% in a year, which is a huge, huge gain when you're looking at all these other issues. We're working with early Head Start as opposed to Head Start. Head Start generally starts too late. It's a good thing, but it's too late because Head Start starts late. But early Head Start starts early. And then we're working hard on parental leave. We're trying to get parental leave into companies. The state of California just passed the most aggressive parental leave law in the country. We supported that strongly, and we not only supported it strongly, but we've got a program with the state. Every mother and father who signs up for parental leave next year will get a first 5 referral, and we will then coach them during that time. So we've got a link to the parental leave program. We also need support for daycares. We need book availability. We need television media support. We need all the caregivers on board. We desperately need caregivers on board, and we don't have that on board, and we're trying to get there. And then we need extensive and interactive media, internet support. We need to have the internet be a major tool. We need to have the internet teaching people, coaching people, connecting people, doing follow-up. And so we're building a toolkit on the internet of things that interact with the mothers and the families and in the community and doing all of that. And we're using this same alignment trigger. And I'm going to end with a couple of points. And one of the points is, why is this so important to do this, and why is it so important to do this right now? Well, working mothers in this country read to their children between birth and kindergarten about 1,500 hours. So for major sets of our population, the reading, talking, singing is part of the culture. We need to do a much better job with that part of the culture as well, because the people don't know the science. The mothers and fathers and families don't know the science. They know the practice, they know the culture, doing good things, but they're moving in that direction. And so we've got about 1,500 hours. It'd be good to take that 1,500 hours to a bigger number. But the Medicaid mothers are only reading to their children between birth and kindergarten on average under 30 hours. Under 30 hours. And more than half of the Medicaid homes don't have a single book. And because half the Medicaid homes don't have a single book, you can't read in those settings. And when you give books to the homes, the reading begins. We've got study after study. You can increase the reading level by a factor of 7 in a year just by giving several books to the family and saying what a good thing it is to read books. I mean, this is one of those cheap interactions that you can do. And we need to teach everyone that talking is golden, because every talking interaction has a magical positive impact that builds millions and billions of brain connections, and mothers don't know it. They just think it's idle wasting time. It's not. Talk into the child, directly to the child, serve and return, exchange with the child, where the child says something, you respond, you go back and forth. Harvard Center for the Developing Child has done magnificent work. Columbia University has done magnificent work showing what impact that has on the children. It really makes a difference. And we need to get all the mothers talking, but we also need to get mothers reading to the kids. And when you look at the Medicaid mothers only reading 30 hours, 51% of the births in this country this year, 51% are going to be to Medicaid mothers. So look at the future that we have if we don't get this right. Over half our kids are going down a path where they're basically going to be unemployable. When you look at what's going on in Milwaukee right now, look at the riots, look at the unemployment levels, the incarceration levels, and the conflict levels. Do you know what percentage of the kids in Milwaukee can pass the basic reading test? 20. Black kids. 20% of the black kids in Milwaukee pass the basic reading test. So those kids are not getting employed because they're facing prejudice, but they're also facing the fact that they can't fill in the employment forms. They can't apply for a job if you can't read. And so we need to make helping those children a huge priority. We need to make this a national agenda. We need to do it everywhere. It needs to be a public health agenda. We know what to do, and now we know what to do it. And I'm going to end with a couple more of the videos that we're doing for First Five. So roll the video.
From the moment they're born, their brains develop at fantastic speeds. Neurons connect by the millions, and their brains grow stronger. You can help fuel this growth with the sights and sounds of words and song. So talk with them.
Es una zanahoria.
Read with them.
Let me read you this book.
Sing with them. Begin the moment they're born. Learn more at first5california.com. The more time we spend engaging with these, the less time we spend engaging with them, and their chances of dropping out of school and getting into trouble increase. Now is the time to connect, to build their brains and their futures. So talk, read, and sing with them from the moment they're born. It changes everything. Learn more at first5california.com.